Hello. I'm Michael Wood. I'm the pop music critic at the LA Times. Thanks for being here. So happy to be here with Molly Tuttle.
So great to be here. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thank you for being here.
Oh man, it's my pleasure. We should say, so we just heard from Kimber about your Grammy noms that you're up for this year, but we should say that those follow 2 wins for Best Bluegrass Album back to back.
Yes.
Damn. And a nomination for Best New Artist. Not Best Bluegrass, just Best
They
straight
should
up
have a
new
best
artist.
bluegrass new artist.
Yeah, really drill down.
But that was the last time we got to talk, was the best new artist.
That's true.
About the predictions
Yes.
and who was gonna
Yes.
win, and you thought I was gonna win, which was very
Ooh.
nice of you. That was generous of you.
Except you didn't, which now I feel weird. No, sorry. How was that? Was that your first Grammys to go to? This was 2023.
Yeah, that
Yeah?
was my first Grammys I ever went to, and it was wild being up for, bluegrass, the bluegrass album, and then the best new artist. I think the bluegrass album was the very first one they announced of the day, and the best new artist was the very last one of the night.
Long night.
It was a long night. I didn't pick the proper shoe wear. I was definitely, my feet were feeling it towards the end of the night, but it was just a whirlwind. I was so a deer in headlights the entire time, but I had a lot of fun, and it was just kind of this whole new world that I'd never experienced before. And then I got to go back the next year, and I kind of knew more what to expect, and I could relax and just, really celebrate, because it's all about celebrating the year in music. And I think that's what's so much fun about these awards, is seeing your heroes, seeing your friends, and we're all just kind of celebrating how valuable music is in all our lives.
Did you get Lionel Richie's phone number?
No, I think I saw him. Yeah, I saw him around, but I unfortunately didn't get a chance to ask for it.
Well, this year, my friend. This year. All right. So Long, Little Miss Sunshine. This is a record. You're trying out some new ideas on this album, I think it's fair to say. Some new sounds, some new textures, some new philosophies, dare I say. Break it down. Like, why? What was the earliest germ of this record that made you say, you know what? This one's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, so this record started years ago. I think it was around the pandemic, like 2020. I just had this total kind of reset where I was thinking about what I wanted to do next. I made this pandemic style cover album in my bedroom in Nashville. And then I started writing my own songs and thinking about what my next album was going to be. And so I sort of felt like I had these 2 ideas. One was like make a bluegrass album. I grew up playing bluegrass music, and I wanted to, at some point make a record that really reflected that and kind of paid tribute to my early heroes and to my family. I'm like a 3rd generation bluegrass musician at this point, because my grandfather played the banjo and my dad taught me how to play. And so I was writing all these songs for that project, and then I had these other songs that were a little more ambiguous, and I was trying writing out with new people in Nashville and doing the co-writing thing. And I thought it could be really fun to try to create something that, fused what I do and maybe my bluegrass flat picking and this kind of these old-timey themes with something totally modern. So that was my other more sort of ambiguous idea that became this new record, So Long, Little Miss Sunshine. But it started way back then. I started writing songs for it, and then I ended up making my record Crooked Tree, which was sort of that album I always wanted to make that paid tribute to bluegrass music that I love. And then I made another record, City of Gold, and then I felt like suddenly the floodgates open and I finished this record. And some of the songs that ended up on it are from that early, moment of just thinking, what could be something different and new and just something I'd never done before, push outside my comfort zone. I started talking to Jay Joyce way back then, back in like 2020 or 2021, about making a record together. And I thought it could be really fun to work with someone like that who is outside of my realm and just kind of, he's a wonderful guitar player. And I was curious to see like what new ideas he could help me develop with my own playing. So
I always love to hear it when, you know, you like on the outside, you tend to sort of narrativize something, right? Like, oh, this our kind of artist made this kind of record and then this kind of record and this kind of record. And like, you think of them as like these logical steps. I actually always love hearing that it's actually not true at all. And like,
Yeah.
this thing started way before the other thing. Do you know what I mean? It's not so linear. That's always interesting for me to hear.
Yeah, I remember like some people from my record label, None Such Records, are here. And when I first signed with them, I had been talking about making this record and actually sent them a couple of the demos that ended up turning into some of the songs on the album. And that now this is my third album I've released with them, just because suddenly I was writing all these bluegrass songs, and that sort of felt like the door that opened to me at the time. It was just coming so naturally and felt like suddenly out of nowhere I had this whole record of songs ready to go. So this one took a little more time, but it has been something I've planned for a while. I feel like my whole career I'm just kind of, just chasing that source of inspiration, and it's really hard for me to force something to happen if it's not time for it yet, I guess.
Why was Jay Joyce, for folks who don't know, has worked with Miranda Lambert, Eric Church, Blaney Wilson, a real Nashville heavy hitter. Why was he the guy that you wanted to make this project with?
Yeah, so I got introduced to him through my manager, Ken Levitan, and Ken had worked with him on records with like Emmylou Harris, and I got really excited when I saw that he had worked with her. And then I looked at his whole discography, and it's very kind of eclectic. It seems like he's a chameleon in that way. And, he produces country music, he does Americana and rootsier stuff, and he also does indie rock. And I love so many different styles of music, and he's definitely in doing the Nashville thing, but he's also like a little left of center, which I thought was cool. And the reason that Ken introduced us in the first place was he said that Jay is such a great guitar player, and he thought it was important for me to work with a fellow guitar player who really understands that side of what I do, since it's such a big part of my music. And it ended up being so much fun because he had all these great guitar ideas, and he would just be like, why don't you play something like this? And he would just kind of hum this thing. And I felt like we were speaking this, kind of psychic guitar language sometimes in the studio.
Did he ever try to play guitar? You're like, bro, no. Hey, it's my record, man.
No, he would strum his guitar so quietly. There's some of the tracks where I think he is playing it in the background, but he was very much like, you're going to be the only soloist on this record. And I'd never really had a producer say that before, and he was like, we just need to make this a guitar record. I was like, oh, that's so cool. It was a really fun challenge.
Yeah, there is a lot of cool guitar shit on this record. We'll come back to that. One thing I was wondering about, so like, okay, tell me if I'm wrong, please. In bluegrass music, it is my sort of idea that there are certain objective skills that you might learn as a young player coming up, right? It's like, it's not, yes, of course it's art, but it's also like a sort of a skill set, right? Mm-hmm. You can play this certain kind of technique. You can play at this certain speed. You can play very quickly, whatever. And I wondered what it was like to come out of a system that had sort of certain kind of objective skills like that versus something that's a little bit more expansive, a little bit more loose. I don't know what genre you would call this record, rock, pop, whatever, but like something that's not about necessarily these sort of like clearly defined traditions. Did you enjoy the fact that the map, the canvas, to use a shitty phrase, was just so wide?
Yeah, I think I was just kind of itching to do something where I didn't feel those kind of confines and those rules.
Yes.
And I feel like when I made my two bluegrass records, Crooked Tree and City of Gold, I loved having that just structure to like, I'm going to write this type of song. I'm going to write a really fast, like barn burner. Now I'm going to write an old timey ballad. Now I'll write like a bluesy kind of, modal haunting tune. There's all these different types of bluegrass songs, and I love just kind of like checking off the boxes.
Yeah.
And I totally know what to do in that world because I grew up playing it. It's just totally within my comfort zone. And so I loved that. And then once I'd kind of finished touring those records, I was like, okay, I think I gained that foundation and kind of the confidence to now go and do something different and, throw out all the rules and just see what songs I come up with and see what guitar parts I want to play that aren't really following any sort of guidelines.
Did knowing that you were going to work with like kind of a different palette, did that lend itself to different themes in the songs you were writing? Did you find yourself writing about different stuff?
Yeah, I think so. Like there were less story songs. I think there's just one song that I would think of as like truly like a like I'm narrating what's happening in the song, which is a track on the record called Rosalie. But a lot of the other ones are more just personal, songs about my feelings, songs about things I've experienced. Some I'm like taking something from my own life and maybe infusing other details into it, so it's not 100% autobiographical. But I definitely think the songs as a whole more sort of follow my life and the things I've been going through, rather than telling these stories or maybe having like a sort of inspiration from my life and wrapping it in a metaphor that sounds kind of more in that old time style of songwriting, I guess.
Yeah, did you find, I mean, like when you were in the more sort of old-timey style, did you find that that format allowed you, I mean, I remember you had a song on the record from 22, I guess, that was sort of about like the gentrification of like where you grew up in Northern California.
Oh, yeah.
And like, that's interesting because like, that's not like, I mean, that's, you weren't writing about some sort of like person on the prairie or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I wondered if did you find, back in those days, did you still find freedom to write about anything? Or did it feel more structured, more strictured?
Yeah, I felt like it was a really fun challenge to take modern themes and write them in a way where the language you're using almost sounds like it could have been written a long time ago.
Interesting.
So in the song you're talking about, San Francisco Blues, it's all about, I can't even afford to ride the cable cars anymore. Yeah. And I talk about the crash of '08, but also reference these things that sound a lot older and like the days of 49. So I like just kind of playing with the old and new. And so that's definitely something I did on this new record, but I was also starting to do it a little bit in those older songs.
Can I ask you about a few specific tracks?
Yes.
Golden State of Mind. That's a gorgeous song. It's probably my favorite on the record.
Oh, thank you.
Where did that song come from? What spurred that song?
Yeah, so that's actually one of the oldest, I think it might be the oldest song on the record. I wrote it about 5 years ago, and it was the first one I wrote with my partner, Ketch Secorn. We wrote most of the album together, but that was the first song we ever wrote together. And when we wrote it, I think we both thought it was a really special song, and it's all about just kind of feeling nostalgic for my childhood, those pivotal moments growing up. I grew up out here in California, like we were saying, in the Bay Area. So that song is just kind of a tribute to my home state, but also just, kind of that nostalgia you feel about the times growing up where you're almost sort of, it just feels so perfect in your head when you look back on it. So that song I just held on to for years, and I didn't really know when or what project I was saving it for. But when it came time to record this album, I played it for Jay, and we thought it worked nicely with the other songs, and it's kind of in keeping with some of the other themes on the album.
I hear some Fleetwood Mac energy in that song. Is that fair to you?
Yeah. We talked about Fleetwood Mac in the studio a lot. Like we were doing this thing on, I think maybe we did it a little bit on that track, but we doubled my guitar a lot. And he was saying that Fleetwood Mac would double the guitars and often like pitch one guitar higher. So we did a bunch of the same kind of effects that he had heard they used. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, what kind of place, like you grew up in California, moved away, mistakes happen. I wondered if...
I did feel like it was a mistake this week when my house lost power for the last 5 days because of our snowstorm in Nashville. I was like, I could have just came out here early and, been in the sunshine.
A snow what now? I've never heard of that. What kind of place does California hold in your mind now? Like, obviously this song channels that feeling, that longing for this place. I don't know. You think about California a lot?
Yeah, I feel like I really kind of idealize California in my mind. I get so happy coming back here, and there's so many great things about it. The weather's always perfect, the beautiful landscapes. I start writing songs a lot when I'm out here and just feeling inspired, and a lot of my family's out here. So I just love it, and I get really homesick, so I try to come back whenever I can.
Actually, moving to Nashville, I would look back and read the story that I wrote in 2023, and we were talking about moving to Nashville. You'd gone to Berklee School of Music in Boston, and then you moved to Nashville, and you said, I think I was expecting it to feel more comfortable than it did. I'd moved to Boston, and that wasn't a huge adjustment, but Nashville was like, whoa. So I'm wondering, 3 years later, how does Nashville strike you?
I think I've adjusted to it by now. I've been there 11 years now, so hopefully I would have adjusted by now.
Yeah.
No, I love Nashville. There's a wonderful music community. There's so much fun stuff going on all the time. Any day of the week, you can just go out and hear the best music, and it's really fun and exciting. But I think moving to the South was sort of a culture shock for me, coming from the West Coast. And then you have things like the weather, and it's also sort of a small town in a way. It's a very insular community, and I think the first year that I lived there, I just didn't know that many people, and I was living sort of outside of town. I was living in this cold basement with lots of spiders. I didn't know that there were spiders that could send you to the hospital in Nashville called brown recluses. So
you got bit by a brown recluse?
I didn't get bit, but I had them all over the place in my basement that I was living in.
Constant fear of getting bit.
Yes. I didn't know what they were at the time, and then I found out. I was like, oh my gosh, my life was in danger.
Wow.
So the little things like that, they just kind of make you feel like, whoa, what is this place I'm living in? But it did take about a year to sort of find my people in Nashville. And so I was living out in Madison. I didn't have too many friends. I didn't have any gigs. And I was kind of like, what am I doing? Like, why did I move here? I'm just kind of sitting around practicing guitar all day. And I could basically be doing that anywhere. But after a year, I moved into this house on a very musical street. I was roommates with Billy Strings and his girlfriend, now his wife, his girlfriend at the time, Allie. And across the street, we had a bunch of musicians living right across from our house, and they always had jam sessions and house concerts. This woman, Lindsay Lou, who's a wonderful singer and songwriter. So she was kind of holding down the fort over there, and people were always coming through, and that's really how I found my community in Nashville. And then it started to feel more like home. But there's always things I miss about California, so that's why I love to come back. But it does feel like home there, too. It's like, I feel like I have two homes.
I've heard Billy Strings really does not do his dishes.
Well,
confirm or deny?
No, I don't know if he does them or not. He was always on tour.
Right, yeah.
But I still feel bad that I didn't, like clean the bathroom more and stuff. I'm like, ooh, I don't know. I was like 21 years old. I probably wasn't the best roommate.
Well, you had PTSD from the spiders, so... that's going to leave a mark. This song has a wonderful opening couplet, which I'll quote to you, which is always enjoyable. You make the lobby call at 6 a.m. How do you look so good with no sleep, sugar? That's a great... You're dropped instantly into the story that song tells. Tell me about coming up with that scene in that song.
Yeah, I wrote that song with my friend Kevin Griffin. He's in the band Better Than Ezra, and he's such a great songwriter. And we wrote that at his place, and he just I think he blurted out the, you make the lobby call line, and I was like, that's cool, because we're both, touring musicians, and we're always struggling to make the lobby call, and often it is at 6 a.m., so if you can look good for a 6 a.m. lobby call, that's pretty impressive. So yeah, I think... we started with that. That was probably the first line we came up with for the song, and then from there it just came together. We had been both listening to Haim, the band, so we were kind of thinking about them when we were writing that song. Something a little sassy, kind of poppy. Yeah.
What is the most brutal lobby call you can recall?
Well, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., where
Sure.
you're like, I'm not even going to go to sleep. If you have to think, should I go to sleep before waking up, then it's probably as brutal as it possibly can be.
Yes.
And if it's at 2 or 3 a.m., I'd recommend not going to sleep.
Are you you at this point well accustomed to sleeping on the bus? That's no problem for you?
Yeah, I sleep okay on the bus. I think it's sometimes I take some melatonin that helps. There's kind of ups and downs where I feel like the first few nights I'll sleep really well, but then I've caught up on sleep, and then every little bump sort of wakes you up. And then depending on your bus driver, some of them hit the rumble strips. Everyone's like, you wake up and you go into the front lounge and everyone's like counting how many rumble strips they hit. And I'm like, I don't want to think about it. But then when it's happening, you start noticing it. You're like, oh no, they must be swerving a little bit. So there's things like that will keep you awake, but I'm a pretty good sleeper. I can sleep on airplanes. I can sleep on floors. I'll fall asleep on the floor in the airport. Actually, I did that once, and then I saw that Sheryl Crow was on my flight, and I was like, I hope she didn't see me sleeping on the floor. She was like sitting right in front of me. I was like, oh God.
She definitely saw you. When you're on the plane, do you have one of those neck donut type deals? Are you one of those people?
I have one at home, but I'm always like cramming so much stuff into my bag. I just can't fit another like big fluffy thing into my bag usually. So I just kind of bunch up like my jacket and I'll be like, ah.
Sure. You do a very fascinating to me cover on this record. It's the song I Love It, which is a true early 2000s electro pop banger from Iconopop. I did not see that cover coming on this record. How'd that happen?
So that song, I actually don't think I ever even heard it when it first came out. And then I heard it like in the past few years with Charlie XCX just exploding with Brat Summer. I just heard it everywhere.
This song was an absolutely ginormous smash.
I know.
How did you not hear
I think I was living under a rock, obviously.
Sure.
I probably heard it, but I didn't kind of catch my attention until it sort of came back around and I started hearing it everywhere.
Yeah.
And then one day we were tracking or we were in pre-production, just getting ready, getting the songs together and coming up with arrangements and making demos. And at the end of the day, Jay was like, I really want to do a cover of this song. And he played it. And I was like, okay. And he was like, I want to do it slow and like druggy and trippy. And so no one even knows what song it is until you get to the lyrics. And it had been stuck in my head like the week before. So I was like, okay, sure, let's try it. So I just came back in the next day. I learned it quickly at home. We recorded it. Maybe it took an hour, and then he laid some other guitar stuff down on it. But then I never really gave it much thought. And then when we were finished with everything, he sent me the tracks and all the mixes and was like, take a listen. He put them all in order, and that one was right in the middle. And I was like, oh my God. And I got to it, and I'm like, oh, it's kind of fun. It's like this little surprise right in the middle of the album. And I liked that some of the lyrics, were sort of similar to some of my lyrical themes too, all about just kind of leaving something behind, stepping into something new. And so it's become so fun to play the record, especially before it came out. I would play the record for people and I would get to that song and watch their face and they'd be like, wait, what is this?
I mean, this song has the sickest burn I've ever heard in a song still to this day. You're from the 70s. I take this personally. You're from the 70s, but I'm a 90s bitch, which is like,
yes. I love that line.
Oh,
it's
so unbelievable.
I am a 90s bitch. Born in 93, so I just love that.
I mean, you're from the 70s. It's so savage. I absolutely love it. Do you do other weird covers?
I do a lot of weird covers.
Hit us with some. What are some
well,
songs
I did a whole record. I don't know if any of them are really that weird, but I did a whole record of covers. I covered like some Rolling Stones. I did She's a Rainbow. That one I still cover all the time. Thanks. I did another pop cover on that record. I covered Harry Styles' Sunflower Volume 6, which I don't remember where I guess I was just listening to his record. I was like, this sounds like it could be cool on acoustic guitar. I love taking like punk rock songs. I love covering some of my favorite punk bands that I grew up with, like one band from the Bay Area, Rancid. Yes, you said it before I could even get to it. I've covered them a bunch because they were one of my favorite bands when I was in middle school. And that was, like in school, I felt like I always had my secret bluegrass life on the weekends with I played in a family band with my two brothers and my dad. So we'd like play shows around California, but then in school I had like my punk rock band with my friends. So I felt like I had this double life where in high school I didn't even want people to know I played the banjo and I played in a family band. I was like, what could be lamer than that? But then suddenly it became cool when Mumford and Sons came out and everyone was like, wait, I heard you played the banjo. And I was like, yeah. So yeah, I don't remember where I was. Oh yeah, weird covers. I think those are some of my favorites.
It's so amusing to me that the thing you like hid from the world wasn't your like depraved punk side. It was your like excellently skilled bluegrass side. It's funny. Old Me, New Wig, in which you use the album's title phrase, So Long, Little Miss Sunshine. I mean, this is a song, to my ears, this is a song about sticking up for yourself, I think. It's a song about sort of realizing that the old stuff you put up with, you're no longer interested in putting up with. And I wondered, what's an example, if you have one, of something that you might have previously, to be frank, some bullshit that you might have accommodated earlier in your life that now you're like, no, I'm not gonna do that anymore. I'm not gonna let you get away with that anymore. Did anything inspire you to write that song in that way?
I think like a lot of things, if I'm just thinking about like early on in my career, just saying yes to every single thing and like totally burning myself out, like, driving overnight to get to a show and doing totally unsafe things to get to where I was going. I feel like I have this side of me that just wants to say yes to everything and everyone who comes along. That song, like one of the lines in it, I got a new wig to get you out of my hair, is all about how I grew up with alopecia and I've worn wigs almost my whole life. But that has also been something where like, I used to be not fine with it, but I used to kind of, put up with people making comments about that when I was a kid. And then I had to almost just break up with the old me that was hiding it away and just ashamed of who I was. So that was one of the inspirations for that song. And I think that's an example of where, like, on my older albums, I sort of wrapped some of those feelings in more metaphors. And on this album, it was the first time where I really spoke candidly about wearing wigs and, just kind of celebrating that part, how it's become something that I love in terms of self-expression. But it used to be this way to, like, sort of hide this difference that I had.
To talk about that felt triumphant, scary, both, something else?
Yeah, I think like I used to get really scared to talk about it, even to friends, like to tell them, I wear wigs. I remember even like with touring at first, when I first started touring, I didn't want to tell anyone in my band, and we were all sharing hotel rooms, so I would like sleep in my wig and it would, give me a rash and stuff. You're really not supposed to sleep in them. But I was so scared to even talk about it to anyone. So I remember I put it in an email eventually. I was like, hey guys, by the way, I've been keeping this a secret, but I've actually been sleeping in wigs, which is kind of weird. So then it almost becomes like you're ashamed of keeping it a secret for so long and you don't want to let them know about that. So I don't know. That was one thing that took me a long time to get comfortable talking about. But now it's not really scary at all. I like doing that song and I'll sing the line, got a new wig, and just throw the wig.
Let's do one more beat on the fact that you emailed the people that you were on a tour with. This is incredible to me.
I couldn't bear to say it in person, so I would email people. Like my first roommates in college, I emailed them that I wore a wig because I didn't want to tell them in person.
But I mean, they saw you writing the email.
Oh, I wasn't on tour. No, I was home when I did it in between tours.
I thought you meant at like sound check. You're like, hold up.
That would be hilarious. I'm not that psychotic.
Right. Well, I mean,
I did it in between. I suffered through the first tour, and then I was like, I need to let them know. So I did the email, but I was too scared to tell them mid-tour.
I got you.
That would have been even more terrifying to email them while we're like at sound check.
That's what I thought you meant, bro. I was like, what? This is insane. Although we don't need to go.
I'm glad we clarified so you didn't all go home thinking that's what happened.
I mean, it might have been only me that thought that. The album cover, I mean, it's one for the record books. This is a strong image, and we should say, I mean, I guess again, as Iconopop said, I'm from the '70s, so I thought of the Brady Bunch like instantly. Is that part of the energy?
Yeah, a bunch of people sent me that after it came out. I didn't have the Brady Bunch on my mood board.
Because you're a 90s bitch. You did not think of the Brady Bunch.
But I was actually trying to come up with the album cover, and I thought it would be so fun since I had the lyric about new wig to do something with, maybe I wouldn't wear the wig on the cover, or maybe I'd wear like a crazy wig, but I didn't really know what to do until I was just looking at other kind of album covers for inspiration. I was doing these shows. I got to play on Ringo Starr's record that came out last year, and I was spending a lot of time listening to Beatles music, preparing for the shows in Nashville that he came to do, and I saw the Beatles cover that I'd seen a million times, but Let It Be, and it had these 4 squares with just their faces on it, and I was like, that could be what if I just basically like copied that and just had these different squares, but it's just me as these different characters that sort of represent some of the songs and the moods and the sounds on the album. And that was sort of my way of weaving in that theme as well, the different wigs. And I knew I wanted to have a picture of me without the wig on the cover because I'd never done that before. I'd always just been wearing it on my record covers, but I thought it was finally time to do that. But I still wanted to show that it was this part of who I am, to wear all these different, not disguises, but different characters and fun styles and just have fun with it.
I like your commitment to the bit. I mean, each of the, what is there? I guess there's 9 little boxes.
Yeah.
And it's like each one of them is like, it really seems like a fully fleshed out like character. Do you know what I mean? Like with a hairstyle and a facial expression, yada yada. Do any of those women in that image, do any of those people correspond to any particular songs?
Yeah, we really looked at the songs. I worked with this amazing photographer, Ebru Yildiz, and she worked with me to kind of listen to the songs and think like if the song was a hairstyle or a mood or a character, what would it be? So some that come to mind are like the bottom middle square, I think it is. I'm wearing this sort of goth, like black wig, and I have dark eyeliner, and I'm just looking like freaked out. And that was that sort of corresponds with the first track on the album, The Arsonist, which is a really dark, moody song full of just kind of angst, I guess. And then another hair, we had flowers in it, and I have a flower in my mouth, and that was inspired by the song Summer of Love, which is all about the 1960s and, you know, the summer of love in San Francisco. And then we have sort of a country Dolly Parton wig that goes with some of the more country sounding songs on the record. Trying to think what other ones. We did one. There's a song on the album, Rosalie, that has a line about her golden hair and braids. So we have a blonde wig with a braid on it. That one was very literal. Yeah.
What's been the reaction from, look, I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that there is some portion of your audience that's kind of like a hardcore bluegrass traditionalist contingent, perhaps. To the extent that you could say, what's been the reaction from maybe some of those folks to the stuff you're trying out on this record?
Yeah, I think some of them, there was some pushback, especially when we released the first track, That's Gonna Leave a Mark, because it is kind of more one of the more poppy song, and it's probably the most poppy song on the album. So yeah, I got comments from people being like, oh no, don't abandon bluegrass. And I definitely don't want to abandon bluegrass. Like when I play my live shows, so much of it is still my bluegrass material, and we break down and we do like a acoustic portion of the show, and it's so much a part of what I do. So I was like, I don't know. It was hard to just kind of, you can't respond to every person and be like, I'm not abandoning it. I promise. I'm still playing it, this and that. But I hope to kind of, assuage those fans' fears by still doing it and putting it out there in the world, playing those bluegrass songs that I love to play so much. But yeah, so there was definitely that. And then there were people who were excited to hear something new. And yeah, I don't know. It was interesting, like putting out that first track and feeling that there was so much pushback from like a contingent of the audience, and then other people were liking it and then getting in fights with them. And then I had to just stop paying attention. I was like, I'm not looking at the comments for a while.
It's none of your business. You don't need to be involved in that. I did see one guy, I mean, sorry to bring up negative shit here, but I did see one guy who said that because of what Jay Joyce had done to your music, that he considers him the reigning country music antichrist.
Whoa.
Intense.
That's crazy because we recorded it all in a church. His studio is in a church. It's called Neon Cross.
Boom.
Maybe it's like a secretly demonic or something.
I'm gonna write back to this guy tonight. And what's your dad? I'm curious what your dad's vibe is on this record. He's, as far as I know, he's like a pretty legit, serious bluegrass guy. Yes.
Yeah.
What do you make of this record?
He loved it. I sent it to him, and I was like, sometimes like I'll send him my music and he responds with like one word.
With a period.
And he'll just be like, cool.
Yeah.
But this one he was like, it's so good. I listened like 10 times. So then I was like, wow, my dad likes it. He's like a bluegrass purist, so I got
Right.
past the dad test. So that was like, that made me feel a lot better because he was like so excited. I was not even expecting that because
Yeah.
usually when I send him stuff, I like won't hear back for a while, and then he's just like the worst texter ever.
Cool. Oof. Chills my bones. Speaking of your dad, I noticed that you posted a tribute when the late great Bob Weir died. You posted a tribute on Instagram and did some clips of when you played with him. And so this is like a question I'm literally asking just for me because I'm interested. You know, Bob Weir famously met Jerry Garcia at a music store in Palo Alto. Your dad, for many years, taught music at a music store in Palo Alto. Is this the same store? Do we know?
I don't know. It's not the same store.
Okay.
I can't remember what store was that they met, what the name of it was, the store. Oh, wait, you both said different things.
Oh.
Okay.
Warring deadheads.
But it wasn't the same store. But my dad did teach music for like 40 years. Up until the pandemic, they had to get rid of the teaching rooms in the back and make more space for social distancing and the instruments and stuff. But he taught ever since he moved to Palo Alto in the 70s, taught at the store Griffin Stringed Instruments in Palo Alto. And I just love, like, there's so much music history in Palo Alto, even though it's more known as like the heart of Silicon Valley. But it's where the Grateful Dead started. And so I got to, I got to play with Bob Weir in Menlo Park, which is just one town over, but it's this, I kind of think of it as my hometown venue, the Guild Theater there. He did a residency and I got to sit in with him, which was so cool. And I think he grew up in Menlo Park or Menlo Atherton. So it was a moment, just like a time I'll never forget. I feel so lucky to have gotten to make music with him and just be in his presence. He was just, everything he said was so wise. He was so in tune to, you know, the universe, and he led us all in a meditation before we took the stage and invited me in to be part of it with him and his band, which was so cool.
I talked to him once at the Sphere in Las Vegas, and he of course he had like the clam diggers on, and then he was like sitting in lotus position whilst eating peanut butter pretzels. I was like, this man is so far ahead of the rest of us.
Yes.
Incredible. Tomorrow night, we should say, or Saturday night, sorry, you're playing Americana Fest at the Troubadour, which is a tribute to Neil Young. Are you at liberty to say what song you're going to play?
Am I allowed to? Jed said, sure, whatever.
It's loose.
I'm going to do a song I've actually played for many years, Helpless. It's one of my faves, and yeah. I actually started playing that song because a fan emailed me and requested that I start covering it. And I was like, yeah, I love that song. I'll try it out. And then I ended up playing it for years, and I used to do it as my encore all the time. And I haven't played it in a little while, but when Jed reached out and asked me to be part of the show, I was like, I know which song I want to do. So I got dibs on that one.
Nice. Is Neil... Is he one of the ones for you? Is that someone whose music you followed throughout your life?
Yeah, I love his music so much, and I think I started listening to him when I was a teenager. I used to get to go to his, I had an uncle who taught in special ed, and he would get me tickets he did this Bridge School benefit concert right down the street from where I grew up. So I got to go to that growing up, which was really cool. And I remember seeing him in Golden Gate Park one time, and yeah,
that's
one
cool.
of my faves.
You are heading out on tour next month, February 5th.
Yes.
Tour starts. And it's with Marty Stewart, right?
Yeah, Marty Stewart.
Yeah, that's cool. How have you thought about kind of configuring this new record for the kind of live show that you play and your band?
Yeah, it took like I feel like our first couple shows, we were still kind of figuring out how to weave in the new music with the older material. And like, we ended up just kind of, revamping some of the older songs to fit in the set that felt a little more electric, a little louder than what I had been doing before. I knew when I made this record, I was going to probably need to put a band together to kind of represent the instrumentation on the album. And I'd been playing with my band Golden Highway, which is a fully acoustic five-piece bluegrass band. But I felt like with this record, I was going to, kind of put a pause on that and find put together a band that could kind of represent this album with the more electric instruments and the drums, but also find players who could hang with the acoustic stuff too. So what we ended up doing, like as the show kind of evolved, was, you know, playing a mix of all my different records, and some of the bluegrass songs we sort of made a little bigger and added drums to, and then some of the songs we stripped totally down and played in the acoustic setting around one mic. And that was really fun just to kind of have that whole musical journey to the show. So yeah, we're just going to keep going this year with that. And we played so many shows this fall. I think our headline tour had like 70 dates between September and December. So I feel like we got so dialed, and now, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I want to keep working up new material. There's still songs of mine that we haven't played live, and even songs off the new record that we haven't played live, and, you know, come up with, maybe you all would have some good new weird cover ideas that we can put in the set too.
Yeah, I've got 25 suggestions. I'll
Thank
text
you.
you later and give them to you.
You can email them to me right now while we're both sitting here.
Oh my God. The Molly Tuttle, as I call it. Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you.
I appreciate
yeah,
it.
thanks for being here.
I should have asked before. Are we doing audience Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So if you guys have questions, now is the time. Here we go.
If you had a choice right now at this moment of doing covering any song, what would it be?
Whoa, covering any song. Well, actually, I was just talking with the Americana folks, and someone was like, "Is anyone doing Ohio, the Neil Young song?" And I was like, it's so relevant to this moment that we're living in, but I didn't, when we reserved our songs, I didn't think of that one because that was in the fall. But I think that would be such a good, I hope someone does it on Saturday. I'm like crossing my fingers that someone will, because that's such a great song. I feel like it's so relevant to everything, you know, going on in Minneapolis and the country as a whole. So I just think that would be a good one if I could suddenly know all the lyrics today. I did cover it one time years ago, but I don't think I still remember exactly how all the lyrics go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You won 2 Grammys with Golden Highway, and now you have a new band. Mm-hmm. Was that like a huge thing to say, okay, I'm not going to do Golden Highway, now I'm going to do this new thing? Or
yeah, it felt like it was kind of coming to a natural stopping point, and like 2 of my band members were releasing their solo albums, and they were going to focus a lot on that, and I had kind of let everyone know when we started the project, you know, let's see how this goes for a year. I have my solo album that I'm wanting to make because it had been in the works for a while. I'd been thinking about it. So we had such a great run. Like we toured together for 3.5 years, and it was sad, like, to, you know, say goodbye for now, but we all kind of know that we can come back together and do it. But it was a really big change, I think, too. And some of that was positive, and some of it was, you know, kind of sad, and we miss each other, but I see them around at festivals. We still, you know, whenever we can, we get up on stage with each other. But yeah, I would say it was a big change because we were doing 100 shows a year together. So you kind of become like family at that point. But yeah, I know that they're still all doing their thing, and they all seem great and happy, and hopefully we'll all get together again and do it again. Yeah. Yeah, stuff like varies so much venue to venue. I think the biggest difference between venues is like a seated theater like this versus a club where people are standing. And then a festival is totally different. So I love all of them, and I love having the variety of just doing different shows all the time. I get so excited for festival season. Those are kind of, you know, my fave. I just love playing festivals because you get to go and then see your friends, and you get to go check out other bands. My crew calls them stresstivals because you sometimes don't get a full sound check, and you're scrambling, and you don't get this and that you usually have on the headline shows. You don't get everything catered to you unless you're like, maybe if you're the festival headliner, you might get a little extra sound check or something. But I love them. And then I love a seated theater because everyone's listening and paying attention and just kind of, you know, it's nice to hear the music in like a pristine theater. But then at the same time, I love a club because it's a little more raucous and people might be cheering more and dancing more, and that's really fun. So I think if I did any one of them over and over again, that's all I did, I might get tired of it. But I like having that variety. And two, for like the people who come to the shows, I like doing some that are seated. Maybe next time I come through doing a standing one because people prefer different things. And yeah, I always feel bad if I see people like at a seated theater who really want to get up and dance and they're not allowed, or vice versa, people at a standing event who look like they want a chair and they don't have one. So I like having the variety so I can make everyone happy.
Do you have any plans to play with Sully in like the tour?
Oh, yeah, my brother Sully. Yeah, so my brother Sullivan is a great guitarist and my dad plays. And I'm trying to think, like this summer I'm coming through California. So if they're around, anytime like they're at my show, or my brother Sullivan tours a lot with his band AJ Lee and Blue Summit. So yeah, they're awesome. Last time I did a hometown show, he was on tour with them, so he couldn't come through. So I'm going to, once it gets closer into when I'm coming out to California, I'll probably reach out and see if he's around. But no plans as of yet. We just naturally sort of bump into each other here and there. But this year I haven't seen us both on any festival bills together, so I'm still waiting for that. That would be fun. But usually we have one or two throughout the year. Yeah.
A fun thing about festivals is different people playing together.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're all in the same place.
Yeah, totally.
Is there somebody that you've played with that you just went all embarrassingly fangirl about? Somebody you haven't played with but that you really, really love?
Ooh. Yeah, I think like one person who comes to mind that I haven't played with, who I really, really want to, and I'm hoping I will get to, is Alison Krauss, because she's like I've met her a couple times. I've never actually gotten to sing with her, and I just love her. I think it would be so fun to sing with her. And maybe someone I've probably embarrassingly fangirled too. I feel like when I fangirl too much, I just get really quiet and I don't know what to say. So that would probably be like, I remember I got to sing with Gillian Welch, and she was kind of who I moved to Nashville hoping I might meet someday. And I don't know if I embarrassed myself, but I probably did.
Yeah, she kind of asked my question, but I really love like the old AJ Lee, with the Tuttle records.
Oh, wow.
You ever think about like, getting the band back together and maybe doing another album?
I would love to. He was asking if I would get my family band back together. We had a family band, me and my dad and my two brothers and our friend AJ, who wasn't related to us, AJ Lee, but we met her at bluegrass festivals and started doing shows together. Our band name was The Tuttles with AJ Lee. It was like not like a very catchy band name. It was very like descriptive of what it was, and it confused people a lot. And so I actually got them all to come out to, I was talking about the Guild Theater, my kind of hometown theater. I usually play there every year around the holidays. So I thought it'd be so fun to do a Tuttles with AJ Lee reunion, not this past holiday, but the one before. And that was awesome. We're also busy. It would be I think about that all the time. I'd love to record us now and just see how it has evolved. So it's in the back of my mind, but hopefully it'll line up someday. That would be super fun.
That is all the time we have, because Molly's going to play some music now. Thank you, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.